Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, hey, welcome into the show. So today on the program, in the second part of the show, we will have computer and technology news. That is entirely dedicated to any late breaking news, anything like that. We will be sure to cover that. But in the first part of the program, we have a guest, yes, and today's guest is none other than CarePredict, and we'll bring them on in just a moment. But yeah, if you haven't heard about them or you don't know everything about them, this will be the show for you, because we will have our chance to ask the chief brand officer everything that we can about the company, what they do, how they do it, and really what sets them apart. Looking forward to our conversation. But before we get to that, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, a link to our guest website. So obviously you could just go to carepredict.com or head on over to Computer America right there in the show notes for today's show. Hey, you'll find a link to our guest website. So all you have to remember, computeramerica.com. And of course, there you'll also find the podcast, links to social media, all that good stuff. So with all that being said, I think that's all I think we really need to announce. And hey, we can go ahead and jump in. So as I said before, CarePredict will be joining us. And this is for, kind of noticing small changes in seniors that can indicate serious health problems, and another step to making sure that people can age gracefully in their homes. They don't have to go somewhere where they receive constant constant monitoring, because they receive that constant monitoring in their own home. So with that being said, we have Dr. Gerald Wilmink here with us from the company to tell us all about this. And Jerry, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Can you hear me okay there, Dan?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, really excited to be on the show and give you an overview on all the exciting things we've been doing at CarePredict for the past, almost 8 years now. Yeah,
no, we love to have stuff like this on, because this is, admittedly here on the show, we talk a lot about, the latest cell phones and laptops and so on and so forth. But this kind of technology is helpful for, obviously, a different, I guess the same, nothing says seniors can't use cell phones and laptops, but this is something that is going to affect people in their everyday lives at some point. This is how people are going to stay in their homes. So I think before we get to that, why don't you give us an overview of CarePredict and, just its background, its mission, as you see it, and then a little bit of background on yourself. When did you start working with CarePredict?
Yeah, well, I came on board CarePredict a little over 3 years ago.
And I'm sorry, and also, what is your background? That was, yeah.
Yeah, so initially I was trained as a biomedical engineer, and I went to Vanderbilt University. And so my background is in optical sensing and biomedical engineering. did a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in optical sensing at Vanderbilt. Moved on to the National Academy of Sciences, and then led a terahertz time domain spectroscopy lab for biosensing. Did that for the Department of Defense, and then ran part of the Small Business Innovation Research Program, which is kind of like the federal government's venture capital program. Basically, they fund new technology companies, and instead of getting equity, they provide grants to develop new technologies and provide new jobs. So did that for a few years, and then I got into the field of digital health and senior care when my grandfather, Dominic Camerata, was suffering from Lewy body dementia, and he fell in his home, and he ended up suffering a fall and passing away a few months after that.
Sorry to hear that.
Christmas time. Yeah, it was very sad. It was, man, it feels like yesterday, but it was almost 10 years ago now. And that's when I started a digital health company and called Wiseware, and then developed some technologies to predict when seniors are at risk for a fall. Sold those patents and myself to CarePredict a little over 3 years ago, and came on board as the chief business officer. And it's been a joy working at CarePredict, because CarePredict had developed both the wearable and the AI platform to predict when seniors are at increased risk for a fall, depression, urinary tract infections, based on the autonomous and continuous measurement of activities and behavior patterns. So the thing that's so fundamentally unique about this is that most wearables and most technology companies getting into the digital health or wearable space have really focused on developing more advanced sensors, so biosensors, looking at blood oxygenation rates, heart rate, blood pressure, and vital sign measurements and physiological measurements are important, but they're much further downstream than your activity and behavior patterns. And so, for instance, you could actually catch the earliest signs of a health decline if you looked at the subtle changes in activity and behavior patterns. For instance, if somebody is depressed, and I've been through a period of depression myself, so I know this too well, but you actually exhibit various changes in, for instance, your activity levels. So compared to your baseline, if you're showing early signs of depression, your activity levels will be decreased. Your eating patterns, you may eat more, longer, or you may skip meals, which is what we find with seniors.
Right.
Your socialization patterns will change pretty significantly. So you won't spend as much time with other individuals. You'll spend less time around bright lights, so outdoors, or even in the home where there's more increased lighting. You'll spend more time by yourself, maybe in the bedroom where it's dark. Personal care patterns. So actually the amount of time you spend maybe brushing your teeth or washing your face or even taking a shower will decrease because you won't be caring for yourself as much. So these are all things that we know are signs of depression, but we've never looked at trying to measure those things autonomously. That is before CarePredict developed this wearable.
And it really sounds like a lot of those symptoms and signs and changes, you would look for those as a doctor. Other healthcare providers would look for that as signs of obviously depression or whatever you're looking for. And I guess you're trying to teach technology to essentially be a trained physician. That can't be an easy job.
No, it's a very good point. And the truth is, ideally, if you had a physician or a caregiver that was observing your every move,
which
every
is
day, all day long, they would maybe be able to see these changes over time. But actually having a machine that can unobtrusively collect this information and then present it in an interface that is understandable, where you can look at the patterns, look at the longitudinal trends. And when you see those patterns, it becomes very clear that there's a change that's occurring and we need to look more closely at what's going on here. So that's what's really, I think, the important piece is, even if a caregiver, whether it's paid or an unpaid caregiver, observe the change, they may not record it over time. So they may not even realize that it's abruptly that different than their initial baseline. So it's hard to, we're basically digitizing that entire observation and creating trends and patterns where they can see those deviations, very clearly, and it becomes obvious that something's going on.
Right.
It's actually it's amazing because we've used it to look at, a variety of early signs of different types of declines. For instance, when a senior is at risk for, or showing the early signs of a infection or a urinary tract infection, we've observed in senior living communities that they will actually go to the restroom more frequently. So maybe they may go to the restroom 5 times a day on average. That's their baseline, and they may increase that to 10 times a day.
Right.
We've also found that they go to they will stay in the restroom for a longer duration. So instead of maybe a few minutes, they'll be there for 10 minutes. And the logic there is, they typically, it takes, especially in assisted living and memory care communities, it takes those senior residents that are maybe 80 years old or above, that have multiple needs for assistance with their ADLs. It takes them a lot of energy to get up and go to the restroom. And so when they get there, they want to make sure something happens, and so especially if there's an infection that's driving them to go there, so we found that early sign, that visits and frequencies to the restroom actually gives us an indication that they may have an underlying urinary tract infection. So those connections and correlations have been very, very helpful. And we've also conducted some pretty detailed studies, 2 peer-reviewed publications on this as well, demonstrating the improved outcomes we've observed in senior living communities, and also how we quickly developed a digital contact tracing system to help senior living communities fight COVID during this pandemic.
And of course, contact tracing, I guess, has really reached the forefront because, obviously COVID and contact tracing. I've been following that whole thing, and especially in the United States, it got to the point where everyone's just saying, if you have talked to anyone, you probably have COVID now. Like contact tracing was so unmanageable in the traditional way of, picking up the phone, asking people who you were in contact with, so on and so forth. You think that a digital, kind of automated solution, it would be much more effective in that kind of way, and at least protecting those who are wearing this device, and exactly. Especially in maybe senior living homes. Is that where contact tracing would help?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we developed our system. We made it available to all of our customers for free during the pandemic as well.
Very nice.
For doing digital contact tracing to help fight COVID. And what we found is in closed environments, so senior living environment, let's say, that everyone has a wearable on. So the residents, the staff, the visitors, you can really track all interactions, and you don't have any outside introductions of the virus, right? So you can actually track, if you do have an infected person, you can trace exactly where they've been, who they've been in contact with. So in a closed environment, it's actually ideal for doing tracing like this, because you can quickly, within seconds, use our tool to find all of the individuals that maybe an infected person came in contact with, the duration they came in contact with, and then quickly make sure that they're being isolated or quarantined and also tested. Without the tool, you basically resort to trying to use symptom-based monitoring, or you're testing everybody, and you just don't have the resources to do that or the time. So this really allows you to focus on the right individuals that may be infected, they're at highest risk, and make sure they're isolated and quarantined, and really help prevent an outbreak from occurring. So it's been very, very, very successful. We've had a lot of press on, the success of this tool. So that's been very exciting.
And I wanted to move the conversation forward a little bit because that's been kind of that's been CarePredict as kind of an overview, and then there's two features I want to talk about. Obviously, if memory serves, you had your CarePredict Tempo, the Tempo 3, I believe, won it was a 2020 Innovations Award honoree at CES, and this year at CES, to go along with that, and I guess to also something that I was going to bring up in a different way, but this year at 2021, you were an honoree for the second consecutive year, this year for CarePredict Touchpoint. So if you'd like, and then I'll start asking my questions, but give us an overview, because now we know what CarePredict is as a system. How does Tempo and Touchpoint work into it?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Tempo Series 3, this is our third generation technology, is really a fantastic technology. In what we're most known for is it's measuring subtle changes in the motion and dynamics of the senior's wrist. So this wearable houses, it's a sensor laden device. So it has really advanced motion sensors, accelerometers, gyros. It has pulse oximeter, sensors for heart rate detection, temperature, humidity, UV, ambient light. So it houses a ton of different types of sensors. And the important thing is it's worn on the dominant arm of the senior. And when that senior wears this device, it basically is measuring all of their subtle changes in motion and can identify those gestures. So if it's eating, washing their face, any type of activity, it picks up those different activities, picks up the location using our context beacons. And then based on that context, it knows exactly what activity they're engaging in. The thing that's fundamentally different here, most wearables don't have a beacon technology to confirm the location and the context, that bathroom versus bedroom versus kitchen.
Right.
And so if you tried to do this with a traditional wearable that did not have the contextual information, gesture recognition is very difficult to do in an accurate manner. If you do know the room, you can narrow down those gestures and have a much higher probability of success.
Very cool. Yeah, and it definitely sounds like you've put a lot of thought into this, which is great, because whenever we talk about technology that is maybe for people with early stages of dementia, or there's other maybe the elderly aren't exactly the most confident in their ability to work technology. I would imagine something like this would have to be very simple. And looking at the interface here, if you're watching the video portion, you can see it here. Looks a lot like a wristwatch, and then kind of like a block. Two little light sensors, I'm assuming, on top of it. But the most important thing is something that looks like a key lock, and then a simple button. So the interface, as far as the end user, seems to be just a button.
Yeah. What we found, this is our third generation technology and third generation wearable, Series 3. So we found in the first two generations, we played with the idea of putting a touch screen and then a wireless charging, similar to what you see in traditional wearables. But those wearables were designed not for seniors. This was designed specifically for seniors. And what we found was, one, seniors were engaging with their voice. So we needed to have a voice-based interface. And so that's one. And two, they weren't typically using their fingers on the digital screen of the wearable that's the size of a postage stamp. Right. So we found that type of interface was just draining the battery. And with those types of wearables, typically you get maybe 12 hours of battery life, and then you have to take the product off. So what we found was we really needed to get 1 to 2 days of battery life. That way the wearable is always on. That way, in the event that the senior falls in the middle of the night, which is typically when they do fall, the highest probability is in the middle of the night as they're walking from the bedroom to the bathroom.
Right.
And that's what most of our research has found as well. And so we needed a product that could give us a couple days of battery life, and that's what this product does. So we designed a really unique battery that is a swappable battery. So it basically, after 1 or 2 days of being worn, You just swap in a fresh battery that's been charged. So this was a real interesting solution because now you never have to take the wearable off. You always have the data now to make the best predictions possible. And in the event of a fall or an emergency, which is really, you have this tool on your wrist at all times.
It sounds like Tempo was definitely very well thought out. And sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, and it's very nice to see that you have generation 1, 2, 3. You're obviously innovating because some of the other products that we've seen, it's like this is what we got. It doesn't really change. And I just have to say, as far as CarePredict comes across, you guys have really been trying to push what is, I guess, kind of for your audience. It's not just, what's new in wearables. It's what's new in wearables that our clients would actually use.
Exactly. No, I appreciate that so much. One other thing too, I think that's unique here is it does have fall detection, so automatic fall detection is built in. And then with that, two-way voice communication. So that button, now you can touch to talk and you could speak like a walkie-talkie right from the wearable device through the CarePredict app to members of the care circle. So it could be your next door neighbor, it could be a family member in New York, right from the app, the CarePredict app, whether from iOS or Android, and then right through the care circle through the phone, through the wearable device. So really, really nice and simple for the senior to use as well in the event of emergency or if they just need to communicate with someone right from the wearable.
Now, to be clear, this is and correct me on any of this, is this a Bluetooth device that has to have a smartphone to pair with to do these features?
To be clear, no, it actually uses Wi-Fi to connect to the internet.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So you can set this up through a portal, an online portal.
Yep. So it uses Wi-Fi. We also have Bluetooth. So if they do have a smartphone, it can connect to that.
Gotcha.
As well as another way of connecting to the internet. And it also has RFID technology built in. So if they have electronic doors or smart doors and they can swipe their wearable and get that set up so that can be their digital key for their home even. We've done that in the senior living environments and that's provided a really enhanced level of safety and security in those environments where seniors, then the residents don't have to even use a physical key. They just use their wearable. Now, so they can go to the workout room, swipe their wearable on the door to the workout room, swipe it on the workout equipment that has smart technology, and it has their personalized workout. So we're trying to make their life streamlined and easy, and also this product is really kind of the gateway, the remote control for their life.
Makes perfect sense. And so that was the Tempo 3. Would you like to talk a little bit about the touch point? And because it looks like you've done some improvements on that as well.
Yeah. So Touchpoint is it's a companion app to the wearable. And during this period, especially during during this pandemic, lots of seniors are socially isolated, and whether they're in senior living community or in their own homes, and people aren't visiting, to try to reduce the risk of transmitting the virus. And so due to that social isolation, we really wanted to create a tool that could really connect the senior and the paid or unpaid caregivers. So they could look at in this app and actually see what's really going on with mom and whether she's missed a meal or is consistently skipping meals, maybe getting up in the middle of the night. And she could see right within the app that, maybe she's not getting rest. Because many times seniors won't tell, my grandfather would say, oh yeah, I'm doing great. And, he fell 3 times last week, but so you could get that information, really objective data on and visibility into those changes. That way the family could intervene if something was happening. So this really is a kind of the next level of connecting the seniors' information with the family to make sure that they are doing okay, especially during this pandemic. So this companion app has been really vital to the family and the caregivers to keep a close eye on the seniors.
It definitely
socially isolated.
Yeah, and it definitely looks, like it's packed full of information, and that brings me to, I guess, the one question I should have asked earlier, but I didn't. Because you're dealing with, a lot of this information. I mean, it's information that's collected on every one of us if we have a smartphone. Location tracking and so on and so forth. But I mean, especially if this can be directed towards healthcare. HIPAA comes into play in terms of security, privacy, HIPAA compliance, that kind of thing. How much attention to data protection has CarePredict done?
We pay our particular attention to this. Our founder and CEO has significant experience in the health and IT space. Mm-hmm. So he was founder and CEO of ContinuLink and several other various large healthcare firms. Where he developed the original EMR for the Palm Pilot, SaaS platform for NICU, and a SaaS platform for home care and hospice. So almost 30 years experience doing this. So he's been very, very, he's really kind of set the importance of making sure the data is encrypted, HIPAA, everything is HIPAA compliant. And the data that we're collecting here too, just to make it clear, is if you try to put these individual data sets into an EHR, these are new kind of data. This is new types of data, activity changes and behavior changes. So in terms of the risk of the data, we would know that you maybe took 4 bites during in the kitchen area, during breakfast, as opposed to some of the other information that would be higher risk. But we take every precaution imaginable in terms of encryption and make sure the data is protected as if it is actually medically, significant.
Right. No, it's very important because even if it's not, something that, you're right, knowing how long a person ate isn't going to get into your bank account, but it's still something that's, I guess privacy in mind is still important. So I'm glad that the company as a whole has really taken that idea of privacy, to their hearts. So let's see. With that being said, so everything's secure now. You have this wrist device. You have this contact tracing app as well as just a companion app. Kind of all together. Just speaking in general, obviously CarePredict does because they're making these products. Do you believe in care by exception is something that we've talked about on the show before whenever we talk about telemedicine, and that's you have this constant flow of information, and sometimes people get worried that doctors will be overwhelmed with information, that they'll be like, oh, now it's not even like I see 500 patients once a month. Now I'm seeing 500 patients in their daily activity. How am I ever going to keep track of this? But correct me if I'm wrong, doctors actually love this because they can start doing care by exception where they're saying, Ben's doing okay. Nothing out of the ordinary here. But then these 10 patients over here are starting to have, different kind of symptoms. Like they're out of the ordinary. Let's focus on them. Is that what you're seeing for, the future of the healthcare field kind of advancing to is constant information and then care by exception?
Yeah, it's a very good point. So really we see these types of tools, especially, digital health tools like this, as augmenting the caregiver, right? So they're not intended to replace the caregiver. They're really to augment and provide information where they can actually conduct even better, more efficient triaging, mm-hmm. right? So they can know, okay, there's 120 residents in a particular community. They could get at one quick glance, they could know these 10 or 20 residents are exhibiting behaviors that are outside of their normal baseline. We need to take a closer look at them right now instead of look at everyone equally, right? And so, because there's some individuals that are showing patterns that they need maybe more immediate attention. So that allows them to more quickly know how to spend their time and who to focus their time on. So I think that is the key. When I think about, even so much has changed the last 10, 20 years, but think about, Google Maps, we used to have paper maps in our glove box, and someone could have said, well, I don't know how effective it is to have a map on your phone. Well, now pretty much everybody is using Google Maps to go everywhere, and it's very efficient and it's effective, because trying to store all those locations in my head on where to go and how to get from this place to that place, it doesn't even
Yeah.
It's very similar though, because we're digitizing now that information the same way they digitize the maps. Is just, it allows for us to focus on other things. And same thing with the physicians or the caregivers, they can focus on providing better care instead of trying to remember different things that could be just stored by our system autonomously.
Yeah, and of course, in that's just the past 10 years, and we've often said about COVID that it's forcing adoption, is forcing adaptation, and in some sectors we're seeing that shift that would have taken 10 years. The work from home, the working remotely field, as well as kind of food delivery apps and kind of grocery delivery. Like grocery delivery services, we're not expecting to see the level of customers that they currently have until 5-10 years later. But hey, it all happened last year. And do you think COVID's having that same effect, that it's increasingly bringing technology to kind of shore up what we don't have anymore?
Yes.
Yeah.
COVID-19 has no question propelled us at least 5 years forward in terms of telehealth, both usage and just general adoption. I think I've seen some reports now. We're at a 300-fold increase, from early March. Where we only had maybe 0.01% of visits were telehealth, and it got up to 70% in April and May. And the adoption rates are high. You look at even 55 to 85, you're seeing almost 50% adoption on telehealth visits. And the providers are increasingly providing different offerings. They're up 50 to 175x. And even from a regulatory reimbursement standpoint, we're seeing all kinds of new services from CMS. And it's no question we are moving into a very virtualized healthcare spend mode. And I think that in the future, we're going to increasingly be using technologies to, become more efficient and also to keep the individual safe. So very, very interesting time. And there's no question COVID-19 has definitely pushed us forward and propelled us into increased usage and development of new technologies like we have here at CarePredict.
Right. And another point that I did not even ask about, but I should now, much in the way, let's say, anything with artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever you want to call it. We heard this conversation about self-driving cars, for instance, where as soon as self-driving cars were able to get out on the road with their systems, measure and start to actually drive, whatever's learned by one vehicle is then shared among the network and then learned by all vehicles. Essentially what I'm saying is that machine learning is exponentially kind of faster because, it's just the more data you can put into it, the better the system gets. And I wanted to talk about CarePredict in that because, the more customers that you have, the more people that are using your services, this idea of, as I said, kind of care by exception, which was, I was implying kind of strictly monitoring and then, kind of detecting who needs attention. But you are actually, obviously, in the name, CarePredict. You're not in the business of just strictly monitoring and treating. You're in the business of this person might have a stroke in the next 24 hours. It's highly likely. Let's get on that. Prediction. How has that... how's that been going for you?
Yeah, we've just kind of touched the surface on this. You're exactly right, though, is now you're collecting data on thousands, tens of thousands of users, and you start seeing different trends and behaviors. You see things that you may not have connected certain conditions with certain changes in activity and behavior, but once you start getting enough data, you start to see those relationships, and it becomes very clear. Even for the more simple things, we've really evolved, for instance, fall detection, right? For years, many groups have just used an accelerometer that, if it if it is abruptly change, both the height, the altitude, and the change in deceleration to the ground, then it detects that as a fall. It assesses that as a fall. We have multiple stages of fall detection now, where our device can pick up, high frequency changes in motion of the device that may look like a fall, but then we can verify that even with changes in heart rate or changes in different things that you'd observe if someone actually did fall, or if they were just bending over to pick up a remote control, that they dropped.
Right.
So those types of changes. Then taking that data and uploading all that fall data, we can do more sophisticated calculations now, because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of data sets uploaded a day that we can really start to look at, is this a real fall? What kind of fall is this? And then create kind of signatures for gestures for different falls that become more accurate at picking up even to detect the fall. So we're really at the beginning stages of it, and it's really exciting to be on the ground floor here and looking at these different important concerns and connecting the dots between the behavior patterns and conditions.
Yeah, and obviously in different environments as well, because I was looking through, kind of our other questions here, and I know that we've talked about senior living facilities. I've mentioned, kind of living from home, aging in place. You have a solution that, I can of course poke through your website and see, assisted living, independent living, skilled nursing. So people who, go out and, they have people come into their home. You have something, a little bit of something for everyone. Why did you decide to, because I'm sure that you could have just went with the institutions, a very controlled environment. It would have been much easier, but no, you're trying to treat or care for everyone how they're choosing to live. Why did you decide to do that?
It's a great question. So, initially we started off in the senior living communities where we had staff that could make observations and confirm what we were observing with the machine. So if we were making a prediction that someone that looks like they're at risk for depression or a UTI or a fall, we'd have staff there in the building that could confirm and maybe conduct a follow-up depression test or do a fall assessment, or look for tests for potential UTI. So actually at the site. So that was important to actually verify that our predictions and tools were valuable and accurate. And then as we started installing across the United States, all of the independent living and assisted living communities, we started to get a lot of inbound interest from home care and individuals, seniors, and their family members that are living in their own homes. Mm-hmm. So we quickly realized, okay, this works very well in senior living communities. We've demonstrated it's got proven results, published the reports, the manuscripts in highly reputable journals. We need to make a version of the wearable and the platform that is available for individuals that live in their own homes.
Gotcha.
And so that's when we launched the actual retail kit to kind of go into the home setting and basically provide a very clean interface on a consumer app that the family members and even home care can use. And so we work with several home care groups as well, that they actually use this to provide more personalized care, home care for seniors in their own homes, because now they're getting information in a continuous manner instead of just a few hour glimpses a day of what's going on with those individuals. So they know that, in fact, they're not getting rest, or they're not eating the way they say they are. There may be an issue with their medication, or, so they can really dig into that and use that to make sure that they are providing the best care possible for those seniors. And also for the payers, the family members, they can show them the data and say, what, this is what's really going on. We recommend this is the kind of care that they receive, and so it helps kind of keep things more objective and the data more transparent.
It's something that, and just real quick, I mean, thought just crossed my mind, because I've been taking care of my parents, and it's something that, man, what a fun trip. But like we currently use a blood pressure cuff, and it has like a memory in it, and we take it to the doctor every time we take them to the doctor, and they can kind of see, kind of in over the past 2 months what it's been. I was thinking that with CarePredict, obviously you have your own built device. Would something like this, maybe just the companion app with a more fully featured, like let's say Apple Watch, would that be possible, or does the CarePredict solution have a bit more accurate sensor and different kinds of sensors that are not found in some of the higher end wearables?
Yeah, I mean, our wearable really houses a ton of different sensors, most that you would see in the really high end wearables. So it has pulse oximeter. It has a optical sensing for heart rate, temperature, humidity sensing. It has the ability to assess subtle changes in wrist motions. So you look at traditional wearables, they are looking at gross motions. So figuring out or trying to calculate a step count, right? So that's like a gross motion change in acceleration in one of the axes, or maybe multiple axes. So with ours, we're looking at really a higher repetition rate and higher frequency of looking at those subtle changes in the gestures.
Right.
So we have all of the sensors that are seen in those really premium wearables. Mm-hmm. Only we're using and processing data in a very different way, and using it.
Yeah. I was just kind of thinking, because my father's already wearing an Apple Watch. Boy, would it be convenient to be able to subscribe to CarePredict and let him keep his Apple Watch. To be able to do that. So we do integrate with a lot of different technologies. So bringing in different data sets. Mm-hmm. So it's something that we're exploring. If other data sets are coming in from different technologies, how can we use that to maybe better identify different patterns and activity and behavior patterns? But it's something that we're definitely exploring. Even on the senior living side, we're bringing in different data sets in regards to medications, right? So if someone is taking X, Y, and Z medications, and there's a known increased risk for a fall from that, we want to know that to layer that in with our predictive tools. Yeah, and obviously I'm glad that you're looking into that, because wearables from all different sources are going to become more and more of a thing, and not all of them will be as sensitive as yours, but hey, at least maybe some form of it may be useful to a system like yours. So I've already kept you for way longer than I intended to, and I want to thank you for being so so accommodating. I do want to kind of end the interview with this last question, which is some of the biggest challenges that caregivers will face in the coming years, but also turn that a little bit into, kind of what's in the future for CarePredict. I mean, obviously challenges coming, you have to shift to, kind of service those needs. So what's in the future for your company, healthcare in the field, that whole thing?
Yeah, the future for us really is centered in one, the senior living communities, but also in the home. We're going to continue to achieve more learnings in the senior living environment, but also conduct more studies in the home setting. That way we know that the tools are providing those health outcomes that we want to see in the home setting as well. But we're really seeing in the United States and Canada that seniors really want to age in place. And we're starting to see that, especially with some of the concerns around COVID and the coronavirus, that they want to be at home. So we're looking at how this tool can really be, as I said, kind of the remote control for their life in the home setting, and integrate it with different technologies and make sure that their family members, although maybe physically they may not be there, they can be there virtually, and be able to kind of support that senior in their home setting. That's really what we see in the future is, more and more seniors will probably want to age in place longer. And there are obviously benefits to living in senior living communities. So we see that as well, is that the social benefits in senior living, we're going to continue to enhance our product in those settings as well. So we really see wherever the senior calls home, we want to keep enhancing that experience, whether it's their home, their independent living communities, assisted living, memory care, or skilled nursing. We want to be there for them.
Perfect. And up on the screen, you can see, kind of the kit, what it comes with, the price and all that kind of stuff. I'll pose the question to you. This is obviously something that, you can purchase for someone at home. I'm sure that if you're looking to implement a system like this in let's say an assisted living community, they would have to contact you directly, because that'd be a lot of watches and things like that.
Correct.
Or a lot of wearables. But just talk about the consumer version and just, the single person kit. Do they go to your website, they buy it, they put it on? I mean, what is the process of buying it, installing it, and going?
Yeah. No, it's really a beautiful product because it's incredibly lightweight. The only requirement for the product is Wi-Fi in the home. So if they have Wi-Fi in the home, then you go to CarePredict.com. Mm-hmm. And they can purchase the retail kit, the wearable, the beacons, the battery, all in one kit, right from our website, and then purchase the subscription as well, which is typically about $1 or $2 a day.
Gotcha.
And that keeps them that data fed to their care circle, all the members that are using our CarePredict app, which they can freely download, and all the members of the care circle can get that information. That's typically the process. And we have a 45-day money back guarantee as well.
Perfect. Yeah. Obviously if someone, for whatever reason doesn't like it, I like that the money back guarantee is there. And I'll let you, of course, Jerry, have the, kind of last word here. Is there anything that we didn't touch on, anything that we didn't talk about that you feel like we should really, talk more about?
No, I really think we covered a lot of the topics we were planning on covering. So I just really enjoyed being on the show here at Commuter America. So thank you so much.
Yeah, our pleasure. Yeah, this has definitely been a lot of fun. I knew that it would be interesting because, again, this is a technology that is advancing in a lot of different forms, and it was great to see you guys out at CES and see the see CES also acknowledge you as well. And it was a real treat to be able to talk to you here on our program. So again, I want to thank you for your time, everyone. We have been talking to Dr. Gerald Wilmink. He is the Chief Business Officer, correct myself from earlier, and for CarePredict. And if you want to find out more, carepredict.com, everything you can find there, or computeramerica.com, and we'll have a link right there on our homepage to CarePredict. So, Jerry, I want to thank you so much. And guys, unfortunately, I have to, kind of wrap up this hour-long interview, so we're all good to go. I'm just going to end the Zoom call and be very, very rude. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great one. Bye-bye. And we'll talk to you soon. All right. And now, everyone, we're going to go ahead and do computer and technology news, and that's brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. All right, everyone. So we have a lot of stories. The interview went long, but we love it when they go long because that means, hey, we get to talk to our guest about so many different things, and it's a lot of fun. But hey, today was actually a pretty big news day, and we can talk about some of this. Let's talk about something, kind of fun. Obviously, we mentioned with the incoming administration, there would be changes. And something that was pretty cool that I never even considered was that, buried deep in the, not really deep, but buried in the White House website, in the coding, or I should say inside the HTML, there is a hidden message inviting people to apply for, apply for jobs with the U.S. government. I guess finding eligible candidates isn't as easy as you think. And check this one out. They figured, hey, if we put it in here, only the weirdest of the weird, the people that we want to hire, would actually find the invite. So, but now, of course, it's in the public, so it is what it is. But the new White House website has a hidden message calling for coders, saying that, and I got to be honest, the only people that would really know about this are people who are really picky about coding, or probably the Russians. So, following the inauguration of President Biden, the White House website received a major update. The website includes information about the current administration and the history of the White House, but hidden in its code is a secret invitation for people to apply for a job in technology, saying if you use the developer tools and are on your browser to inspect the website, you'll see a hidden message that states, if you're reading this, we need your help building back better. Building back better is, of course, his phrase. It then has text for the United States Digital Services job application page. The USDS is a technology unit that works across the U.S. federal government to improve services. People can join the USDS in tours of civic service with a maximum term of 4 years. The majority of people involved serve 1 or 2, according to USDS. So the USDS deploys groups of designers, engineers, product managers, and bureaucracy specialists to help civil servants. So there you go. And this was actually called to, called to it here by Isaac Hepworth over on Twitter, saying that obviously the new website, which and anyone who uses computers for a long period of time knows this, the new whitehouse.gov has a dark mode. Yeah, a dark mode. I love dark mode. Has dark mode, and then of course it was also pointed out that it has this image here, right here, which is, if you're reading this, it's just a bracketed out comment. If you're reading this, we need your help building back better. There you go, and the job application page. Very simple, but obviously pretty effective. Yeah, there you go. So the USDS page goes over the hiring process and requirements for people to be involved in the organization. The majority of people at the USDS are working remotely at the moment due to COVID. But there you go. Yeah, I thought that was a very fun way to kind of kick things off and, say, hey, they're looking in the right places. Their heart's in the right place for people who are going to be picking through the code. Maybe they can help with the USDS. Now, let's see. So there's that one. This one was pretty cool. This is from Engadget, and it's all about the girl with the pearl earring, a very, very famous painting. You can see it there. Everyone should be familiar with that. But then, even beyond that, you can see it here. Someone took a camera to the painting, and not just any camera, but literally a 10 gigapixel resolution image of this picture is available on Petapixel. Petapixel is, of course, a website dedicated to incredibly high resolution photos. And you can see the images here. It gets even cooler than this. So you see the image of the girl with the pearl earring. It zooms in on her eyes, and you start to see the really the little cracks in the paint that have developed over the years. And then it zooms in a little bit further, and you can start to see some of the actual brushstrokes and detail of the paint. But then it goes even further, and you can see actually the depth of the cracks, the depth of the paint, how it is actually adhering to the canvas, how it's mixing in different forms. It truly is really, really detailed. And they even took it from different angles, because this is the eye of the girl, but then it's taken from kind of an upward view. And I know that we consider paintings to be kind of two-dimensional, but this looks very much like ridges and valleys, and it's 3 dimensions. It's paint on 3 dimensions. It really is crazy. So this is the gentleman there that is actually taking the super high resolution scans of the images, and they're all available digitally with heat maps, different sensors. And hey, let's face it, it's a whole new way to preserve modern art, or at least art, I should say historical art, in an entirely different way. So it's very, very cool, and we highly recommend that you check that out. We'll have a link in the show notes and see it for yourself. It's something that high resolution images of historical documents and sculptures and things like that, I get, but this is taking it to the next level, something that only modern technology can really do. So there's that article, and I found just a couple of these to be super fascinating. Let's talk about Airbnb real quick. And Airbnb does what everyone else does. Just so you know, on social media, if you are edgy, if you like to be controversial, if you like to be that edgelord that you just know you can be, well, it's going to come back to bite you, because Airbnb, and like I said, most other organizations, has been quietly using social media to root out and ban extremists, saying it's said to have banned more than 100 accounts with ties to hate groups. Airbnb canceled all bookings in Washington, D.C. this week in an attempt to prevent people from traveling there for Joe Biden's inauguration in the wake of January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. The company also said it is attempting to ban anyone who took part in the insurrection, as well as those with links to known hate groups. Now, the company used dummy accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and forums to identify users with ties to white national and other possibly dangerous groups. 6 or so employees in the trust and safety unit are said to have been tasked with tracking down users connected to those groups and kicking them off the platform. It's so little, though. I mean, I think that Airbnb probably has in the neighborhood of millions of users, and it's great that they're able to find, verifiable 100 people that they can say, these people don't belong on our service. But 6 people kicking off 100 people in a platform of millions, small fries, small potatoes. Now, Airbnb has adopted such practices since the lead up to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, and has taken a more aggressive approach since January 6th, saying the company, which prohibits violent racist groups from using its services, is said to have banned more than 100 accounts of people with links to those hate groups. In 2019, Airbnb banned more than 60 users after cross-referencing leaked email addresses from a neo-Nazi forum. The company also banned a Proud Boy forum member who booked an Airbnb as part of plans to attend Washington, D.C. rally in November. So with that being said, the likes of Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms have been kicking people connecting to hate groups and those who post QAnon-related content off their services in recent months. As such, Airbnb has found it more difficult to use social media to monitor these people, which isn't a bad thing, because violent racists probably shouldn't be on the platform for you to track in any event. So there you go. It's now they also said that the statement here from Airbnb: when signals suggest a hate group member may be using Airbnb, we investigate and take appropriate action. This information can come across in many different ways, including flags from members of our community, social media users, or news articles. So yeah, they're taking note of what's happening in current events and trying to apply it in their own way. Okay, so there's that one. We really don't have time for a lot of these other ones. We might pick these up on another day. Just a quick update on a couple of these. Linux has been ported to run on Apple's M1 Macs. For those of you who don't know, Apple recently switched over to their own silicon, to their own silicon, and that means that they're making their own processors, which are fundamentally different, and they are running on the ARM x86 architecture, and well, yeah. Saying that, and they have a spokesperson here from Hector Martin, a developer for Linux, saying, "I've been waiting for an ARM laptop that can run Linux for a long time. The new Air would be almost perfect, except for the OS." And being able to port the Linux kernel over to the new ARM x86 architecture is very, very impressive that they were able to do that so fast. It's only been a couple of months and they're able to implement an entire additional operating system onto completely new hardware. So with that being said, Corellium CTO Chris Wade describes the new port as completely usable on a Mac Mini M1, and it works by booting the full Ubuntu desktop from USB. Yeah, it works. You will need a USB-C dongle to get networking working though, and the process to get the port running will require some familiarity with Linux and custom kernels. He has a tutorial on the process if you're interested in checking the project out. So yeah, he was able to do it. Looks like still using 2 different USB dongles to get everything to work, but hey, a workaround is a workaround. So there's that update, and then there's of course the update with Netflix, the one, the only, the juggernaut, the behemoth. Well, Netflix is pretty big when it comes to the world of streaming. You know, you'd think that it would be split a little bit more differently, but no. Netflix now has officially 200 million subscribers globally. What a beast. What a beast. And yeah, they even have a nice little Google TV series, including like Tiger King, Money Heist, Cobra Kai, The Umbrella Academy, things like that. 9 of the 10 top shows have all been from Netflix, and well, they need to do a little bit better because only 2 of the top 10 were Netflix movies. But you know, when it comes to TV shows and series, I think Netflix has them completely outclassed. So there you go. Netflix doing well. Love to see it. Everyone, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program. And until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.